Belgium, October 23, 2023, 4:47 in the morning. A champion breeder walks to his loft, coffee in hand, ready to prepare his birds for morning training. He opens the door. The perches are empty, 12 birds gone, no broken windows, no forced entry, just silence. And in that silence, a question that every pigeon racer has asked themselves at least once. Could this happen to me? Between 2020 and 24, over 12,000 racing pigeons were stolen across Europe. Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, Poland, France. 12,000 birds, champions, young prospects, breeding pairs worth thousands of euros. And the worst part? Almost nobody is talking about it. The federations issue quiet warnings. The police dismiss it as property theft. The media doesn't cover it. But in the lofts, in the clubs, in the late-night phone calls between breeders, there's fear. Real fear. Because these aren't random thefts. These are organized operations. Professional criminals who know the sport, who study the calendar, who track your social media posts, who watch your loft for days before they strike. This is not a story about bad luck. This is a story about a shadow economy that exists right beneath the surface of our sport. An underground market where champion bloodlines are stolen, rebranded, and sold to unsuspecting buyers across borders. Where your bird, the one you raised from an egg, the one that won your club race, the one you were planning to breed next season, disappears in the night and reappears 3 weeks later in another country, with a different band, a different color, a different name. And unless you know exactly what to look for, you'll never see it again. So today, we're going to talk about the one thing nobody wants to discuss, but everyone needs to understand: how thieves are stealing racing pigeons, where they're selling them, who's buying them, and most importantly, how you can protect your birds before it's too late. This is going to be detailed, this is going to be uncomfortable, and this is going to be real. Because ignorance isn't protection, knowledge is. Let's start with the story that should have made international headlines but didn't. May 17, 2022. A small village outside Antwerp, Belgium. 37 lofts were hit in a single night. Not randomly, systematically. The thieves worked in teams, moving from loft to loft between 2 and 5 in the morning, during a rainstorm. They knew the weather would cover the sound. They knew most breeders wouldn't check their birds during a storm. They knew exactly which lofts had valuable stock because they'd been watching social media for months. Every race result posted online. Every photo of a winner. Every proud comment about bloodlines. The thieves compiled a list, and on that rainy night in May, they executed it. The operation was clean. No broken doors. No smashed windows. Most of the traps were opened with simple lockpicks. In some cases, the thieves brought portable ultrasonic devices that calm birds, preventing panic and noise. In others, they used a spray, a mixture of lavender oil and a mild sedative compound, just enough to keep the birds docile for 30 seconds while they were grabbed and placed into transport boxes. The entire operation per loft took less than 8 minutes. By dawn, over 280 birds were gone, and here's the part that haunts every investigator who worked the case. Not a single bird has been officially recovered. Why? Because by the time the thieves were reported, the birds were already across the border. Some went to France, some to Germany. A few ended up in Poland and Ukraine. Their bands were removed, their flight feathers were dyed, their leg markings were altered with cosmetic pigments, and within 72 hours, they were listed for sale on encrypted forums, private Facebook groups, and underground auction sites that operate entirely outside the formal pigeon racing world. The asking price? Between 500 and 2,000 euros per bird, depending on bloodline and race results. No questions asked, no proof of ownership required, cash only. Let's talk about how this black market actually works. Because most people think it's just a few opportunistic thieves grabbing birds and selling them at flea markets. That's not what this is. This is a structured, international network with suppliers, transporters, brokers, and buyers. It functions like any illegal trade. There are scouts who identify targets. There are extraction teams who do the actual thefts. There are middlemen who handle transportation and documentation fraud. And there are sellers who market the birds to end buyers, usually people who want champion genetics, but don't want to pay legitimate prices or go through official channels. The scouts are often people within the sport. Not always, but often. Someone who attends club meetings, someone who helps at races, someone who asks innocent questions about your breeding program. They're gathering intelligence. Which birds are performing well? Which lofts have expensive stock? Which breeders post their results online with photos that show loft locations, security systems, daily routines? Every piece of information is valuable, and once a target is identified, the scouts pass that information up the chain. The extraction teams are usually not pigeon people. They're professional thieves, often with backgrounds in rural burglary, livestock theft, or organized crime. They're hired specifically because they know how to move quietly, disable basic security, and work under time pressure. They're given a list of addresses, photos of the lofts, and specific instructions about which birds to take. Not all birds, just the valuable ones. Young birds from champion parents, proven racers with strong results, breeding pairs with documented pedigrees. They leave the old birds, the culls, the non-performers. Because this isn't about quantity, it's about profit. Once the birds are taken, they're moved immediately, usually within 2 hours. Transport boxes are pre-prepared, often lined with sound-dampening foam to keep the birds quiet. The vehicles are nondescript, dark-colored vans or SUVs with false plates or no plates at all. The route is planned in advance, avoiding main roads, cameras, border checkpoints. The birds are taken to a holding location, usually a rural property or abandoned farm, where they're processed. Processing means removing identification. Bands are cut off with precision tools. If the band was a closed ring placed as a baby, cutting it without injuring the bird requires skill. So there are specialists who do this. Flight feathers are sometimes dyed using semi-permanent poultry dyes, the kind used in exhibition birds to alter the bird's appearance. In some cases, leg skin is treated with pigment injections to obscure natural markings. This isn't crude, this is professional-level forgery. After processing, the birds are rebanded with fake rings, often generic rings that look official but carry no traceable registry information, or rings from defunct clubs that no longer verify memberships. Then the birds are photographed and listings are created. These listings appear on closed social media groups, encrypted messaging platforms like Telegram or WhatsApp, and specialized websites that operate in legal gray zones. The listings are written carefully. They don't say stolen. They say private sale, divorce settlement, estate liquidation, urgent relocation. Buyers are told the seller is leaving the sport, downsizing, or selling due to personal reasons. And because the prices are good, not suspiciously cheap but lower than official auctions, people buy. Who are the buyers? That's the uncomfortable part. Most of them aren't criminals. They're regular pigeon fanciers who genuinely believe they're getting a legitimate deal. They see a bird with a good story, a believable pedigree, a reasonable price, and they buy it. They don't ask hard questions because they don't want to know the answers. Some buyers are new to the sport and don't understand how authentication works. Some are experienced but choose to look the other way because the bloodline is too good to pass up. And a small percentage are deliberate participants who know exactly what they're buying and don't care. This market exists because there's demand. There's demand for champion genetics at below market prices. There's demand for shortcuts. There's demand for birds that can win races without the years of careful breeding and selection that legitimate programs require. And as long as that demand exists, the supply will continue. Now let's talk about why this problem is so hard to solve. First, there's the jurisdictional issue. Pigeon theft is classified as property crime in most countries, and property crime, especially rural property crime, is low priority for law enforcement. When you report a stolen bird, the police write a report, file it, and that's usually the end. They don't have the resources or the training to investigate cross-border pigeon trafficking. They don't understand the sport. They don't know how to trace bloodlines or verify bands. And frankly, they have bigger concerns. Second, there's the identification problem. Unlike dogs or cats, pigeons don't have microchips. The only permanent identification is the leg band. And once that's removed, proving ownership becomes extremely difficult. You can describe your bird's markings, its flight style, its behavior, but unless you have DNA samples on file, which almost nobody does, you can't definitively prove in court that a recovered bird is yours. And even if you could, the legal process is slow, expensive, and often not worth pursuing for a single bird. Third, there's the culture of silence. Many breeders don't report thefts because they're embarrassed, or they don't want to admit they had poor security, or they're worried about insurance implications, or they simply don't believe anything will be done. So the true scale of the problem is hidden. Official statistics say 12,000 birds in 4 years, but people inside the sport believe the real number is 3 or 4 times higher. Fourth, there's the federation problem. Racing federations are primarily focused on organizing races, maintaining records, and managing memberships. They're not law enforcement. They're not investigative bodies. When thefts are reported, they can issue warnings. They can flag stolen band numbers in their databases, but they can't raid properties. They can't seize birds. They can't prosecute criminals. Their power is limited. And in some cases, there's been criticism that federations are too slow to share information across borders, too reluctant to publicly acknowledge the problem, too concerned about protecting the sport's reputation. And fifth, there's the complicity problem. Not everyone in the sport wants this issue solved. There are people making money from the black market. Sellers, brokers, corrupt club members who provide information to thieves in exchange for a cut. There are buyers who know they're purchasing stolen birds but justify it by saying, if I don't buy it, someone else will. There's a whole ecosystem of people who benefit from the current system and have no incentive to change it. So what happens to the stolen birds? Let's follow one case in detail. In February 2023, A breeder in the Netherlands reported 8 young birds stolen from his loft. These were 6-month-old birds from his best breeding pair, a hen that had won 3 national races, and a cock from Jan Huymans' lines. The breeder had documented everything: photos, pedigrees, DNA samples stored with a private lab. He reported the theft to police, to his federation, to online pigeon forums. He even hired a private investigator. 3 weeks later, one of his birds appeared in a Facebook group sale post. The seller was located in Germany, claimed the bird was from his own breeding, and was asking €900. The original owner recognized the bird immediately from a unique white flight feather pattern. He contacted the seller, pretending to be an interested buyer, and asked for more photos. The seller provided them. It was definitely his bird, but the band was different, and the seller had a story prepared about the bloodline. The owner contacted German police. They said they needed proof. He showed them the photos, the DNA records, the stolen property report. They said they'd look into it. 2 weeks passed. The owner checked the Facebook post again. It was deleted. He contacted the seller directly. No response. He searched other groups and forums. Nothing. The bird had vanished again, presumably sold privately before authorities could act. 4 months later, the same bird appeared in a race result in Poland. The owner saw it in a photo posted by a different fancier who'd won a local club race. Same white feather pattern, same head shape. The owner contacted this new person, explained the situation, provided all his documentation. The Polish fancier was shocked. He'd bought the bird 3 months earlier from someone at a race meet, paid €700, thought it was legitimate. He had a receipt, but it was handwritten. No contact information, just a first name. The Polish fancier, to his credit, agreed to return the bird, but legally the situation was complicated. He'd purchased the bird in good faith. He had proof of purchase. Under Polish law, he was considered the legal owner, unless the original owner could prove the bird was stolen property and that the seller had no right to sell it. This required going to court. The Dutch owner would need to file a claim in Poland, hire a lawyer, prove ownership through DNA testing, which had to be done by an approved lab, and even then there was no guarantee of success. In the end, the two breeders worked it out privately. The Dutch owner paid the Polish fancier €500 as compensation for his loss, and the bird was returned. But think about what this means. The original owner lost 8 birds. He recovered 1. It cost him €500 plus investigation costs plus months of time and stress. The thieves got away with 7 birds, sold them for an estimated €6,000 total, and faced 0 consequences. The German middleman made his profit and disappeared. And somewhere in this chain there are now 7 birds with falsified identities being raced or bred under false pedigrees. This is not an isolated case. This is the pattern. And it's happening every single week across Europe and increasingly in other parts of the world where pigeon racing is popular. Now let's talk about prevention, because that's what you actually need. Theory is interesting, but practical protection is what keeps your birds safe. We're going to go through this methodically, from basic security that every loft should have, to advanced measures for high-value stock, to behavioral changes that reduce your risk profile. Basic security starts with physical barriers. Your trap door needs 2 locks minimum. 1 visible, 1 hidden. The visible lock is a standard padlock or combination lock that thieves expect to see. It needs to be good quality, hardened steel, weather-resistant, but it's not your main defense. It's a deterrent that adds time to the theft operation. The hidden lock is your real protection. This can be an internal bolt that's only accessible from inside the loft, a secondary latch that's concealed behind a panel, or a magnetic lock that requires a specific tool to open. The point is that someone looking at your trap from outside shouldn't be able to see your actual security system. Windows need to be secured with internal mesh or bars. External bars tell thieves you have something valuable. Internal barriers are less obvious and just as effective. If you have ventilation openings large enough for a hand to reach through, cover them with hardware cloth on the inside, secured with screws, not staples. Staples can be pried out silently, screws can't. Lighting is critical. Motion-activated lights around your loft perimeter force thieves to work in illumination, which they hate. But don't use cheap solar lights. Use hardwired systems with backup battery power and adjustable sensitivity. Position them so they cover all approach angles, and angle them slightly downward so they illuminate faces, not just ground. Thieves will often scout locations at night to check security, and a well-lit perimeter makes your loft a harder target than your neighbor's dark one. Cameras are increasingly affordable and incredibly valuable. You need at least 2 cameras. 1 covering the main entrance to your loft, 1 covering the trap and door area. These need to be weatherproof, night vision capable, and most importantly, they need to record to cloud storage, not just local SD cards, because thieves who know about cameras will steal or destroy the recording device. Cloud storage means even if they take your camera, you have footage. Audio recording is also valuable because many thieves talk while they work, and voice recordings can help with identification. But here's the thing about cameras. Don't advertise them. Visible cameras deter amateur thieves, but tell professional thieves exactly where not to stand. Hidden cameras catch everyone. Mount one obvious camera where thieves expect it, and mount a second better camera in a concealed position. You want footage of their face, their vehicle, their methods. Alarm systems designed for lofts are available but expensive. A cheaper alternative is a simple door contact alarm, the kind used for home security. Install it on your trapdoor and connect it to your phone via Wi-Fi. If the trap opens when it shouldn't, you get an immediate alert. Response time matters. If you're alerted while the theft is in progress, you can call police, confront the thieves, or at minimum get to your loft fast enough to get vehicle descriptions and photos. Now let's talk about security through obscurity. One of the biggest mistakes breeders make is advertising their success too loudly. Every time you post a race result with a photo of your winning bird, you're giving thieves information. Every time you post a picture of your loft from outside, you're showing them your location. Every time you talk about your breeding plans on social media, you're telling them which birds are valuable. This doesn't mean you can't share your success, but it means you need to be smart about it. Don't post photos that show your loft's exterior, your street, your house number, or identifiable landmarks. Don't mention your town or village by name. Don't show close-ups of your birds with unique markings visible. Don't talk about specific bloodlines you own or recent purchases of expensive birds. Keep your wins general. Had a great race today is fine. My Jansen cock from Van Loon bloodlines just won the 300-kilometer race from my loft in Bruges is an invitation. Consider creating a separate social media account for pigeon content that doesn't use your real name or location. Use a nickname, a general region instead of a specific town, and never link it to your personal accounts. This makes it much harder for scouts to connect your online presence to your physical location. Physical location hiding is also important. If your loft is visible from the road, consider screening it with trees, hedges, or fencing. Not solid fencing that looks like you're hiding something valuable, but natural barriers that make casual observation difficult. Thieves prefer targets they can watch from a distance without being obvious. If they can't easily see your daily routine, your loft becomes less attractive. Routine variation is something most people never think about. If you go to your loft at exactly 7 a.m. every morning and exactly 6 p.m. every evening, thieves can plan around your schedule. They know you won't be there at 2 a.m. Vary your times. Visit your loft at random hours occasionally. Let people see your car in your driveway at unpredictable times. This creates uncertainty, and thieves hate uncertainty. Community awareness is one of your best defenses. Know your neighbors. Tell them you keep pigeons. Ask them to report any unusual activity around your property, especially at night. Give them your phone number. Most pigeon thefts happen in rural areas where properties are spread out and people mind their own business. Break that pattern. Create a culture where neighbors watch out for each other. Join or create a local loft security network. This is a group of breeders in your area who share information about suspicious activity, attempted break-ins, and confirmed thefts. Use a private messaging group, meet monthly, and establish a rapid alert system. If one loft is hit, everyone else goes on high alert. This kind of network has proven effective in areas where it's been implemented. Now, advanced security for high-value birds. If you have champion stock worth thousands of euros, basic security isn't enough. You need layered defenses. First layer is perimeter security, which we've covered. Second layer is loft security, which is the locks and cameras. Third layer is bird-specific security, which is where most people have no protection at all. DNA banking is essential for valuable birds. Take a blood sample from each important bird and store it with a certified laboratory that maintains genetic databases. This costs around 30 to 50 euros per bird, and it's the only way to definitively prove ownership if a bird is recovered. Some labs now offer DNA registration services specifically for racing pigeons, with searchable databases that law enforcement can access. Photography documentation needs to be systematic. Take multiple high-resolution photos of each valuable bird from different angles. Front view, side view, back view, wing spread, tail fan, close-up of head markings, close-up of leg scales, close-up of eye color and pupil shape. Save these photos with detailed notes about unique markings, feather patterns, structural features. Store them in cloud storage with dates and timestamps. This documentation is legally admissible and helps tremendously if you need to prove a recovered bird is yours. Micro-marking is an emerging technology. Some breeders are now using UV-reactive ink to mark birds in ways that are invisible to the naked eye, but show up under UV light. These marks can be placed on skin under feathers, on the inside of the wing, or on the leg. They're permanent, they don't harm the bird, and they're nearly impossible for thieves to detect and remove. The downside is that this technology isn't yet widely standardized, so law enforcement may not know to look for it. Tracking technology is improving but still imperfect. GPS trackers small enough for pigeons exist, but they're expensive. Battery life is limited, and they add weight that affects racing performance. Some breeders use them on breeding birds that never race, just for security. The technology will get better, but right now it's not practical for most people. Now let's talk about what to do if you are targeted. Prevention is always better than response, but if your birds are stolen, how you react in the first hours determines whether you have any chance of recovery. Immediate action the moment you discover the theft. First, don't touch anything. The theft scene may have evidence: fingerprints, tool marks, dropped items. Photograph everything before you clean up. Second, call the police immediately. Even if you think they won't help, you need an official report number for insurance and for any future legal action. Third, document what's missing. Band numbers, descriptions, photos, estimated values. Be precise. Within the first 24 hours, you need to spread information. Contact your federation and request they flag the stolen band numbers in their system. Contact neighboring federations if you're near a border. Post on social media, but be strategic about it. Don't just say my birds were stolen, because that tells thieves you discovered the theft and they'll accelerate selling. Instead, post photos and say you're looking to buy birds from specific bloodlines. Use the exact bloodlines your stolen birds came from. This alerts the community to watch for those genetics without tipping off the thieves. Join every pigeon buy-sell trade group you can find on Facebook, Telegram, specialized forums. You're looking for your birds being listed. Search daily. Use image search tools if someone posts a photo that looks similar. Save every listing you find, screenshot it with timestamps, document the seller's profile, contact known pigeon dealers and auction houses, tell them you've had birds stolen, provide descriptions and ask them to watch for those birds being offered for sale. Legitimate dealers don't want to handle stolen property, and most will help if you give them specific information. Hire a private investigator if the value justifies it. Look for investigators with rural crime experience or livestock theft background. They know how these networks operate, and they have contacts law enforcement doesn't. Monitor race results in your region and neighboring regions. Stolen birds often appear in races within weeks. If you see a result from an unknown fancier with a bird that matches your stolen bird's description, investigate carefully. Contact the fancier politely. Ask about the bird's background. See if the story makes sense. Long-term recovery efforts require patience. Some stolen birds don't surface for months or even years. They're held, bred, and their offspring are sold. Set up Google alerts for specific bloodline names combined with words like for sale or auction. Check online marketplaces regularly. Stay connected to the community, because word of mouth often leads to recovery. If you locate a bird you believe is yours, do not confront the current owner aggressively. They may be an innocent buyer who has no idea the bird is stolen. Approach respectfully, explain your situation, offer proof of ownership, and propose solutions. Many honest fanciers will cooperate if you handle it professionally. If they refuse, that's when you involve authorities with all your documentation. Legal recovery is complex and varies by country. In most European countries, if you can prove a bird is yours through DNA or incontrovertible evidence, you can reclaim it, but you may have to compensate a good faith buyer for their purchase price. This feels unfair, but it's often the only practical path. Fighting in court costs more than the bird is worth unless it's an exceptionally valuable animal. Insurance is something most small breeders don't have, but if you have significant stock value, it's worth investigating. Specialized livestock insurance or valuable personal property insurance can cover theft, but policies vary widely. Read the terms carefully. Many policies require specific security measures to be in place, and they'll deny claims if you didn't meet those requirements. Document your security setup with photos and receipts. If you ever need to claim, you'll need proof you took reasonable precautions. Now we need to talk about the one protection method almost nobody uses but should: scent marking. This is where PigeonHealthy's approach becomes relevant, and this is information most thieves don't know about yet, which makes it effective. Birds have excellent scent memory. Research has shown pigeons can distinguish between hundreds of different odor compounds and remember scent associations for months or years. Most people don't use this because they think of pigeons as visual navigators, which they are, but scent plays a bigger role than commonly understood, especially in loft recognition and territory marking. The concept is simple. You create a unique scent signature for your loft that your birds associate with home and safety. This scent is applied to the loft interior, to perches, to trap areas, and lightly to the birds themselves through bathwater or feeding areas. The scent needs to be natural, non-toxic, and distinctive. A blend of specific herbs creates an olfactory fingerprint. Why does this help with theft prevention? Because when birds are stolen and taken to a new location, they're disoriented by the absence of their home scent. They don't settle as easily, they're stressed, and stress affects their appearance and behavior, which makes them harder to sell. A stressed bird with poor feather condition and nervous behavior doesn't command premium prices. Thieves want calm, healthy-looking birds. If your birds carry a scent association that makes them uncomfortable in new environments, they become less valuable stolen property. Additionally, scent marking can help with recovery. If you train your birds to respond to a specific scent, you can use that scent as an identification tool. If a bird is recovered and you bring your scent blend near it, the bird's recognition response can serve as additional evidence of ownership, especially if documented on video. The PigeonHealty Protective Blend uses a combination of lavender, sage, and geranium in specific ratios. Lavender for calming and scent persistence, sage for respiratory health and natural antibacterial properties, geranium for its strong distinctive scent that birds recognize but humans find pleasant. This blend is mixed into a water-based solution and applied through misting in the loft in addition to bathwater. The application process takes about 2 weeks to establish scent association. You mist the loft interior lightly every evening. You add the blend to bathwater twice a week. You place scent sachets near perches and nesting areas. The birds begin to associate this scent profile with their territory. After 2 weeks, the association is strong enough that removing the birds from this scent environment creates noticeable stress response. For breeders who want this added protection layer, the exact ratios and application method are provided to PigeonHealty subscribers because this is specialized information that needs to be used correctly. Incorrect ratios or application can cause respiratory irritation or scent overload that birds find aversive. Done properly, it's a subtle security layer that costs almost nothing and provides real deterrent value. Beyond scent, there's behavioral conditioning you can use. Train your birds to respond to unique sounds or visual signals that only you use. A specific whistle pattern, a particular colored flag, a unique feeding call. If your birds are stolen and later recovered, you can demonstrate they respond to your specific signals, which helps prove ownership. This won't prevent theft, but it aids recovery. Let's address something uncomfortable. Some breeders respond to theft risk by reducing their stock quality, reasoning that if they don't have valuable birds, they won't be targeted. This is a terrible strategy. It punishes you for others' crimes. It diminishes your breeding program. It lets criminals dictate your participation in the sport. Don't do this. Instead, invest in proper security and continue breeding the best birds you can. There's also the question of whether to publicize thefts when they happen. Some breeders stay silent because they're embarrassed or don't want to be seen as victims. Others go very public to warn the community and pressure authorities. Both approaches have merit. Silence protects your reputation but allows the problem to remain hidden. Publicity helps the community but may attract unwanted attention. The best approach is usually selective disclosure. Tell your local club and nearby breeders immediately. Post in regional security networks right away. But be strategic about wider social media disclosure. Wait until you've done your initial investigation so you don't alert the thieves before you've gathered evidence. Community response to theft matters enormously. When a theft happens in your area, how you and other breeders respond sends a message to thieves about whether your region is a safe target or a difficult one. If thefts are met with organized community action, increased security, information sharing, and cooperation with law enforcement, thieves move to easier areas. If thefts are met with silence and individual isolation, thieves know they can operate freely. Some regions have successfully reduced theft rates through organized action. In parts of Belgium, local clubs created theft response teams that include members who are former police, security professionals, or investigators. When a theft occurs, this team activates immediately, coordinates information gathering, organizes search efforts, and liaises with authorities. They've recovered birds, identified thieves, and created enough difficulty that organized theft rings avoid their area. This kind of organization requires leadership and commitment, but it works. If you're in a club or federation, propose creating a security committee, volunteer to lead it, create protocols for theft response, establish relationships with local police so they understand the problem and know who to contact when reports come in. Educate members about security best practices. Make security a regular topic at club meetings, not something mentioned once a year. Education is critical because many breeders, especially newcomers, don't understand the risks. They leave trapdoors unlocked overnight. They post detailed photos of their lofts on social media. They talk openly about expensive birds they've purchased. They don't mean to create risk, they just don't know better. Experienced members need to mentor new members about security without creating paranoia. There's a balance between reasonable caution and unhealthy fear. You shouldn't be terrified to enjoy your birds or participate in the sport. You shouldn't turn your loft into a fortress that's unpleasant to work in. But you should take basic precautions seriously and understand that theft is a real risk that requires real response. One pattern that's emerged in recent years is the theft of young birds specifically. Thieves increasingly target 4 to 6 month-old birds rather than proven racers. Why? Because young birds haven't yet established strong loft attachment. They're easier to relocate, and their racing records are minimal, so falsifying their background is simpler. A 2-year-old hen with 15 race results and a pedigree everyone knows is hard to rebrand. A 6-month-old youngster from good parents can be given any story. This means if you're raising young birds from valuable pairs, they're at elevated risk during their first racing season. Extra security during this period is warranted. Don't post photos of your young bird team. Don't discuss your breeding plans in detail. Don't let strangers see your youngsters during loft visits. Speaking of loft visits, this is another vulnerability point. Organized thieves sometimes pose as interested fanciers wanting to see your loft, learn about your methods, maybe buy a bird. They're actually gathering intelligence. They're noting your security, your routines, which birds you value most, and where you keep your best stock. Be cautious about who you allow into your loft. Verify people's credentials. Check if they're actually members of the clubs they claim. Ask mutual contacts about them. Don't let someone you met online see your entire operation on a first visit. If someone visits and asks unusually detailed questions about your security, your daily schedule, when you're away from home, or seems more interested in your setup than your birds, that's a red flag. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. There's also the insider threat. Most thefts are by outside criminals, but some involve people within the sport. Someone who helps at club races and has access to transport vehicles. Someone who's struggling financially and sees an opportunity. Someone who's jealous of another breeder's success. These thefts are particularly difficult because the thief has insider knowledge and community trust. They know which birds are valuable, where lofts are located, and when breeders are away at races. If you suspect insider involvement, this is extremely delicate because false accusations destroy reputations and club harmony. Don't make accusations without solid evidence. Instead, quietly improve your security, limit information sharing, and watch for patterns. If multiple thefts occur and certain individuals always seem to have information about the victims beforehand, that's worth noting. Federation-level response has been inconsistent. Some federations have created stolen bird databases where members can register thefts and search band numbers before purchasing birds. This is helpful but only works if people actually use it and if the database is comprehensive and up-to-date. Other federations have implemented stricter rules about band verification at races, requiring proof of ownership for new birds or birds from outside the region. The challenge is that federations have limited enforcement power. They can ban members who are found to have purchased stolen birds, but they can't compel bird returns or prosecute theft. They can share information across borders, but they can't force other federations to take action. The sport needs better international coordination, centralized databases, and standardized protocols, but achieving this requires cooperation among organizations that often have different priorities and limited resources. DNA registration could solve many of these problems if it became mandatory. Imagine if every bird had to have DNA on file with the federation before it could race. Ownership disputes would be definitively resolvable. Stolen birds would be identifiable even without bans. Falsifying pedigrees would become nearly impossible. The technology exists. The cost, while not trivial, is manageable, probably less than €50 per bird for lifetime registration. The barrier is organizational will and member acceptance. Some breeders resist mandatory DNA registration because they see it as unnecessary bureaucracy and expense. Others worry about privacy or don't trust federations with genetic data. These are understandable concerns, but the alternative is the current system where theft is rampant and recovery is nearly impossible. The sport has to decide whether protecting birds and ensuring pedigree integrity is worth the cost and administrative effort. Looking at how other animal industries handle this is instructive. Horse racing has comprehensive identification systems, including microchips, detailed physical descriptions, and DNA requirements for breeding stock. Dog breeding increasingly uses DNA for parentage verification and health screening. Even cattle farming has moved toward electronic identification systems. Pigeon racing is behind the curve, still relying primarily on leg bands that can be removed in seconds. The economic impact of theft on the sport is significant but hard to quantify. Beyond the direct loss of birds, there's the corruption of bloodlines through falsified pedigrees, the loss of breeder confidence and participation, the damage to the sport's reputation, and the cost of security measures that breeders must implement. Some breeders have left the sport entirely after experiencing theft. Others have scaled back their programs or stopped attending certain races because they don't feel their birds are safe. There's also the ethical dimension. When someone steals your bird, they're not just taking property. They're taking an animal you raised, cared for, and formed a relationship with. They're violating your trust in the sport community. They're benefiting from your years of breeding work and investment. It's a particularly personal violation that affects people deeply. Recovery stories, when they happen, are profoundly satisfying. There's a case from Germany where a breeder had 6 birds stolen in 2021. 18 months later, he was visiting a friend's loft in another region and saw one of his birds in a neighboring loft. He recognized a unique wing pattern immediately. The neighbor had purchased the bird legitimately from someone at a race 7 months earlier. The original owner had DNA records and photos. The current owner was shocked but cooperative. They contacted authorities together. DNA testing confirmed the match. The bird was returned. The purchase money was refunded by the seller when confronted with evidence, and the original owner got his bird back. But for every story like that, there are dozens where birds disappear forever. The realistic recovery rate is probably under 5%. That's why prevention matters so much. Once birds are stolen, the odds of getting them back are very low. Your security measures before theft are far more important than your response after. Let's talk specifically about what the professional criminals in this network look like, because understanding your adversary helps you protect against them. These aren't random opportunists. The organized theft rings operate like businesses. They have overhead, they have equipment costs, they have transportation expenses. They need to steal high-value birds to make the operation profitable. That means they target carefully. They look for breeders who show success at major races, who post results online, who advertise expensive purchases, who have lofts visible from roads, who have minimal security. They avoid breeders who keep a low profile, who have strong security, who live in communities with active theft prevention networks, or who have reputations for being difficult targets. You can influence which category you fall into. A breeder with good security and operational security, meaning careful information control, is simply not worth the risk for professional thieves. They'll move to easier targets. Your goal isn't to have the best security in the world. Your goal is to have better security than the other lofts in your area. Thieves choose the path of least resistance. The equipment thieves use is relatively simple. Lockpicks, bolt cutters, portable LED lights, bird transport boxes, sedative spray, gloves, and dark clothing. More sophisticated operations use radio frequency scanners to detect alarm systems, thermal imaging to verify no one is home, and jamming devices to block cellular alerts. But most thefts don't involve high-tech equipment. They involve basic tools and knowledge of the sport. Timing patterns are predictable. Most thefts occur between midnight and 5 a.m., with peak activity around 2 to 3 a.m. Weekends are more common than weekdays because thieves assume people sleep more deeply. Stormy or rainy nights are preferred because weather masks sound. During racing season, especially right after major races, theft activity increases because thieves know lofts are full of healthy birds just returned from competition. If you're going to upgrade security, time it for early racing season. Install cameras and improve locks in March or April before the season starts, not in October when activity is lower. Make your loft a hard target before thieves start scouting. Vehicle patterns are also consistent. Thieves use inconspicuous vehicles, usually vans or large SUVs that can hold transport equipment and birds. Dark colors are preferred. Plates are often false, stolen, or covered. They park away from the loft, not directly in front, and approach on foot. If you or your neighbors see an unfamiliar dark vehicle parked on your rural road at odd hours, especially repeatedly, that's worth investigating and reporting. Some theft operations involve two vehicles, one for the thieves and equipment, one as a lookout stationed down the road to watch for police or the owner returning home. If you discover a theft in progress and give chase, be aware there may be a second vehicle involved. Don't put yourself at risk. Get descriptions, get photos if safe, but prioritize your safety over property. Personal safety is important to address because some breeders have confronted thieves physically. This is almost always a mistake. Thieves working at night are often armed, at minimum with tools that can be used as weapons, sometimes with actual weapons. They're already committing crimes and may be desperate or intoxicated. Confronting them can escalate to violence. Your birds are valuable, but they're not worth your life or serious injury. If you discover theft in progress, stay safe. Call police from a secure location. Get vehicle descriptions and direction of travel. Take photos or video from a distance if you can do so without being seen. Do not approach. Do not block their escape route. Let them go and let law enforcement handle it. Insurance and investigation can potentially recover birds. You can't recover from serious injury. After a theft, trauma and emotional impact are real. People feel violated, angry, helpless, and sometimes guilty, wondering what they should have done differently. These feelings are normal. Talk to other breeders who've experienced theft. Join support networks. Don't isolate, and don't let it destroy your love for the sport. Most breeders who continue after theft say that rebuilding is difficult but ultimately rewarding. Some practical advice for rebuilding after theft. If you lose valuable breeding birds, don't immediately spend huge amounts replacing them with expensive purchases. Take time to assess what happened, improve your security, and then gradually rebuild. Sometimes theft is a wake-up call that leads to better practices. Use it as an opportunity to improve, rather than just returning to the same vulnerable situation. If you lose young birds or racers but your breeding stock is intact, you can recover relatively quickly. Focus on what you have left, not what you lost. Breed from your best remaining pairs. Stay active in the sport. The thieves don't get to win by driving you out. For breeders in high theft areas, some have created cooperative breeding programs where valuable birds are housed at multiple locations. If one loft is hit, the bloodline isn't completely lost. This requires tremendous trust between breeders, but in tight communities it works well. You're essentially diversifying your genetic portfolio across secure locations. Technology trends suggest that theft will become harder over time as security equipment improves and becomes more affordable. 15 years ago, Loft cameras were expensive and complicated. Now you can buy a weatherproof wireless camera for under €100. DNA testing that cost hundreds per bird is now under 50. Tracking technology continues to improve. The Thieves' window of opportunity is slowly closing as detection and identification technology advances. But until these technologies become universal, the black market will exist. As long as people want champion genetics at discount prices and are willing to buy without asking questions, stolen birds will have buyers. The demand side needs to change. Buyers need to insist on verification, ask for proof of ownership, refuse suspiciously cheap offers, and report offers that seem illegitimate. Cultural change in the sport is essential. There needs to be social stigma attached to buying birds without proper documentation. Right now, in some circles, there's a don't ask, don't tell culture where people know some birds are probably stolen, but don't care as long as they get good genetics. This has to change. Clubs and federations need to make clear that purchasing birds without verified pedigrees and legitimate transfers is unacceptable and will result in consequences. Some federations have started requiring transfer documentation for all birds entering races. You can't race a bird unless you can show how you acquired it, either through breeding records showing it came from your loft, or purchase documentation showing legitimate transfer. This puts pressure on both thieves and buyers because stolen birds can't be raced without falsified papers, and falsifying papers creates additional risk and complexity. The international dimension makes enforcement difficult. A bird stolen in Belgium can be in Ukraine within days. Legal systems don't align. Police cooperation is limited. Language barriers complicate investigation. But there are examples of successful international cooperation. Interpol has a wildlife crime unit that occasionally gets involved in high-value bird theft cases. Europol has coordinated operations against organized rural crime networks that included pigeon theft. The sport needs to advocate for law enforcement to take this more seriously. When breeders' organizations present data showing millions of euros in theft losses annually, when they can demonstrate organized criminal networks operating across borders, when they can connect pigeon theft to other criminal activities like drug trafficking, which sometimes uses the same transportation networks, law enforcement pays more attention. There's also the insurance industry's role. As claims for stolen birds increase, insurance companies have incentive to push for better security standards and maybe even industry-wide tracking systems. Insurance companies have successfully driven security improvements in other fields, like automotive theft prevention. They could do the same for pigeons if the losses become significant enough. Looking forward, what does the next 5 years look like? Theft will likely continue to increase as more people enter the sport in developing pigeon racing markets and demand for proven bloodlines grows. But security technology will also improve, making theft harder. DNA databases will expand, making bird identification more certain. International cooperation among federations will slowly improve. And as the problem becomes more visible, law enforcement will devote more resources. The breeders who survive and thrive will be those who adapt, who implement good security, who practice operational security with their information, who participate in community protection networks, and who stay informed about theft trends and tactics. The breeders who lose will be those who assume it won't happen to them, who ignore security basics, who advertise their success carelessly, and who respond to theft by giving up on the sport. This is a fight for the integrity of pigeon racing. If the black market is allowed to flourish, if stolen birds can be easily sold and raced, if bloodlines become corrupted with false pedigrees, the sport loses its meaning. What's the point of breeding records, of pedigrees, of careful selection, if genetics can just be stolen and falsified? The sport depends on trust and verification. Protecting that system requires every participant to take security seriously. So where does this leave you, the individual breeder trying to protect your birds? You implement physical security that makes your loft a hard target. You practice information security that keeps your success and your stock private. You participate in community networks that share information and coordinate response. You document your birds thoroughly so you can prove ownership if needed. You stay informed about theft trends in your region. And you create a culture in your club where security is normal, where helping each other protect birds is expected, where buying birds requires verification, and where theft is treated as the serious crime it is. None of this requires huge expense or paranoia. It requires awareness, consistency, and community cooperation. Most security measures cost very little. Locks, cameras, alarms, lighting, all affordable. The behavioral changes cost nothing. Not posting detailed information online is free. Varying your routine is free. Knowing your neighbors is free. Checking birds twice daily is free. Most of what protects you is habit and awareness, not equipment. For those who want the additional protection of scent marking using the PigeonHealty method, that information is available to subscribers because it requires specific instructions to implement correctly. But even without that, basic security keeps the vast majority of birds safe. The reality is that most lofts will never be targeted. Thieves work on probability and opportunity. They hit the easy targets and avoid the difficult ones. Make yourself difficult, not impossible, just difficult enough that thieves choose someone else. That's achievable for every breeder, regardless of budget or experience level. The sport has survived wars, economic depressions, disease outbreaks, and regulatory challenges. It will survive the current theft problem. But individual breeders who lose their birds to theft may not survive in the sport. So protect yourself, protect your birds, protect your investment and your passion. Because at the end of the day, these aren't just birds. They're the result of years of work, the carriers of bloodlines you've carefully developed, the animals you've formed relationships with. They're worth protecting. And remember, the thieves only win if we let them. If we stay silent, if we accept theft as inevitable, if we don't take precautions, if we don't cooperate with each other, then they win. But if we make security standard practice, if we share information freely, if we support each other after theft, if we pressure authorities and federations to take action, if we refuse to buy birds without verification, then we create an environment where theft becomes too difficult and too risky to be profitable. That's when it stops. This is the reality of modern pigeon racing. It includes beauty and competition and genetics and sport, but it also includes crime and the need for vigilance. Accept both aspects. Don't let fear dominate, but don't ignore risk either. Find the balance where you enjoy your birds fully while protecting them intelligently. Your birds trust you to keep them safe. Your years of breeding work deserve protection. The sport's integrity requires that we all take this seriously. So assess your current security honestly. Identify weaknesses. Fix them. Share what you learn with fellow breeders. Build networks. Stay alert. And if you're ever targeted, if you walk to your loft one morning and find birds missing, remember that you're not alone. Thousands of breeders have faced this. Many have recovered. Many have rebuilt. The community will support you if you reach out. Document everything. Report immediately. Investigate thoroughly. But don't let it end your participation in something you love. The thieves are counting on us being easy targets, on us staying silent, on us giving up. Prove them wrong. Be a difficult target. Be vocal about theft. Never give up on the sport. That's how we win. This is the fight we're in. Not the fight we wanted, but the fight we have. And it's a fight we can win if we commit to winning it together. Protect your birds. Protect each other. Protect the sport we all love. Because in the end, racing pigeons isn't just about birds flying home. It's about a community of people who share a passion, who respect tradition, who value honest competition, and who refuse to let criminals destroy something beautiful. That community is strong enough to solve this problem. We just have to decide to do it. So start today. Check your locks. Review your security. Talk to your neighbors. Join your local network. Document your birds. And fly them with confidence, knowing you've done everything you can to keep them safe. The thieves might take birds, but they can't take the knowledge, the experience, the relationships, or the passion. Those things belong to you forever. Guard what can be guarded, and never let fear steal your joy in this incredible sport. That's the message. That's the reality. That's what every pigeon breeder needs to understand about theft in our sport today. Not to create panic, but to create preparation. Not to spread fear, but to spread knowledge. Because knowledge is the first and best defense. Now you know how it works, who's doing it, why it happens, and how to stop it. What you do with that knowledge determines whether you become a statistic or whether you stay safe. Choose wisely, act decisively, and keep flying. Retry. Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.